Now that 9th gen systems are on the horizon, I'm going to talk about some of the games I think are the best of this generation. Best video game lists are always interesting because they usually come in two forms. The first type is a list where the author or content creator just lists the most popular games because that's what most people liked, rather than judging games based on personal enjoyment. The other type is where it's just a list of favorites, and this is what this video is about. Today we'll look at PS4 games. I think that makes sense since it was my primary console of the generation for a large portion of it. Eventually there was a period where I started gravitating towards PCs again, and once I got a Switch, it too was a system that took playing time away from the PlayStation. But the number of games I played on the PS4 is still pretty decent. In fact, I think the variety is quite good, ranging from painfully obscure to painfully mainstream. At first I thought the video would slant towards anime-style games, because that's what I bought the system for in the first place, but it's actually almost a 50-50 split, so it should be a fun video. Just so you know, occasionally I'll mention some games that I played on PC primarily, but I have had some PS4 experience with. And also, of course, keep in mind that I haven't played everything either. For example, a game that I want to play is Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't have it yet, so that's probably something that would have been on this list if I played it. Anyways, it's just all for fun, and the video serves as a way to talk about a few things in regards to my experience with the PS4, so let's get started. Call of Duty World War II. Now this is a game I only got into a few weeks ago. I got it for free as part of my PlayStation Plus subscription, well, as free as a subscription can be. I haven't played a Call of Duty game since they stopped taking place in World War II. I still played a bunch of Battlefield games, but I found Call of Duty to be more fast-paced, and I can manage to get my head around the gameplay better. That was my experience then, and apparently that's still the case today. I'm so bad at Battlefield now, but in Call of Duty World War II, I'd say I'm about average, which is a good improvement. Occasionally I am dead last, but sometimes I even get a moment in the spotlight. When it comes to first-person shooters, I've mostly stuck to playing them on PC, but to my surprise, I'm doing fine with the controller, which is a rare thing for me. I almost exclusively play multiplayer, either war or team deathmatch, though I occasionally try out something else. I'm having a lot of fun with it right now. It's something I can just play for a little bit and then, put back down. I do wonder if I would enjoy it more on PC. In fact, I do have it on PC now because I saw it on sale on Steam. I only managed to play it maybe for a couple of hours, and the main difference is that on the PS4, like when you aim at a person, it does auto-aim just slightly, but on the PC it doesn't, so I just have to get used to that. And also there's like a lot more people online on the PS4, which isn't too surprising. There was actually times where I just couldn't find a game to join, so perhaps I'm just gonna go jump back and forth between the two versions. I should also mention that I think that the game looks pretty good, but some of that visual flair doesn't exist in the multiplayer game, only in the campaign mode. The single-player missions have a really nice atmosphere going on, and I wish that something like that could have been better preserved in multiplayer. But I guess it's fine, because once you're actually, in multiplayer, you start thinking more in a competitive sense rather than trying to be immersed. Megadimension Neptunia V2. You didn't think I'd make a video without mentioning Neptunia at least once, right? Neptunia V2 is such a great step up from the previous games. The basics are still the same, characters are still personified consoles, and gameplay-wise, it's the Quest 64 style turn-based dealio. But the graphics are much better, there are gameplay additions, and perhaps most crucially, a bunch of new dungeons. It's not that recycling of assets doesn't happen, that's clearly still a thing, but the game looks and feels so much more fresh with new environments. Unlike the Rebirth games, there's also proper transformation sequences, which of course is an important thing for this kind of game. I also like that Uzume was introduced to this game. She's a fun character and a good addition to the cast. I also like how the game was divided into segments at one point. I thought it was nice to go through the experiences of each of the goddesses one by one. Overall, it's a great step forward for the series as a whole. Senran Kagura Estival Versus. I like my fanservice anime games, and here's one of my favorites. The series began life on the Nintendo 3DS as a side-scrolling hack-and-slash game that follows a bunch of ninja girls. Shortly after that, the series went fully 3D on the Vita with Shinobi Versus. But Estival Versus is the first game in the series that made its way onto a home console, though it did get a Vita release. The characters, animations, environments, and just generally speaking everything about the appearance has improved. This in turn also enhanced the fan service, which is, for this sort of game, a good thing of course. Transformations, special attacks, finishing moves, all those types of things is really where you notice it. I'm also quite happy with all the different characters you can choose. I find that a lot of fun and it adds a bunch of variety. First Renewal is another Senran Kagura game worth mentioning that's on the PS4. It's a remake of the first game that runs on Estival Versus' engine. It's a really good place to start getting into the series because, well, that's the start in terms of the storyline. But I went with Estival Versus for this video just because it was the first home console game, so therefore the biggest step in terms of quality in the series. At least when it comes to PS4 games. You could argue that the 3DS to Vita was a bigger step, but this is a PS4 video, so... Anyways, on to the next game. Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash. We aren't out of the water yet with Senran Kagura. In fact, Peach Beach Splash is all about the water guns. I really, really like this game. I think the gameplay is quite good, considering it's the first time the series dabbled in the shooter genre. PBS, for short, is a third-person shooter for obvious reasons. What I like about this game is that clearly a lot of thought has been put into the fan service and how it integrates into the gameplay mechanics. You know how there's some anime where it's just filled with low-effort fan service? Like random super low angle shots for no reason? Senran Kagura is the opposite of that. It's high-effort fan service. And whenever the series dabbles with other genres, that strength really comes to light, and PBS is the best example in my opinion. Peach Beach Splash makes full use of the fact that the characters get wet. It's also quite fun how there's a bunch of different types of water guns, though I do find the lack of variety in the stages quite unfortunate. There's also one stage which has a lot of tiers, which in theory sounds like fun because, you get to jump around all over the place, but the AI tends to congregate towards the middle, like at the bottom there, and it's just a dreary, gray-looking place. So that department could use some improvement. Frame rates also fluctuate quite a bit on the PS4 version, which isn't super bad in my opinion, but it is noticeable. I hope one day the series can refine the gameplay because I'd love to see a follow-up on Peach Beach Splash. The Last of Us. I'm not really into horror games that much, especially not zombie stuff, but The Last of Us was a great experience. I honestly don't even know how I own this game. I don't remember buying it. I thought maybe it was bundled with the console, but mine's a launch system that didn't, like it wasn't a bundle or anything, it was just the system. I figure maybe the game was given to me. But anyways, either way, I'm glad I have it because not only is the survival aspect of the game an enjoyable, tense experience, but I also like to follow the story. I guess I was a bit surprised because I really didn't care much for the story in the Uncharted games, but hey, that's that and this is this, right? The game also looks really nice. Considering it started life as a PS3 game, that's even more impressive. Naughty Dog is pretty good at that stuff though, as the Uncharted games are some of the best looking PS3 era games as well. I think the level design is well done, and the environments all have a really cool atmospheric feel to them. I really like urban exploration. I haven't done that myself, but I've been looking at pictures and videos people have been posting for many years now, so I think that's another reason why I like playing The Last of Us, just to look at and go through all the abandoned places. Galgun Double Piece. Now, this is a good one. I don't think I've talked about this game in a while. I did a couple of videos on this game when it first came out, but that was years ago. Essentially, it's a rail shooter, but obviously with a very fanservice-y twist. Basically, the story goes like this. The main character is a regular but unpopular guy. A Cupid angel named Ekaro wants to hit the protagonist with a love arrow so that he may find true love. She accidentally upped the dosage by a vast amount, and now the entire female student body is after you. That's a realistic plot, right? The only way to stop them is with the... it's called the pheromone shot, which makes the subject double over in enthusiasm, let's say. But because of the arrow's increased dosage, he needs to find his true love right away or else he'll be doomed to loneliness for eternity. So business as usual, in other words. It's a wild concept, but I thought it was hilarious. The first game, which was for a while an Xbox 360 exclusive, believe it or not, never made it to the West. I remember reading about it back when the more out there Japanese games never made it out of the country. The article that I read, like the tone of it was more like, look at what the Japanese are doing now, LOL, kind of thing, but I liked the game, or at least the idea of it. And I'm glad that the second game actually did make it over here. In terms of gameplay, it's not super smooth, to be honest. In fact, aiming is slightly clunky, which isn't ideal for a game in the shooter genre. Mainly it's the concept, humor, and fan service which won me over. The best parts about this game are all the funny and suggestive situations the game has in store. So while the main gameplay, doesn't perhaps stack up, it's all the little situations as you're going through the school and stuff like that that is entertaining. I just think it's a lot of fun. Disgaea 5. Of course I have to mention the Disgaea game in this video. The series has been pretty consistent over its almost 20-year existence. It's always been a grid-based strategy RPG with over-the-top visuals and crazy deep gameplay. Disgaea 5 is still all of those things, but what I really like about it are all the little improvements that the game introduced. Firstly, the game looks more refined with how the menus are animated, for example. It's subtle, but that's the sort of thing that's nice to see. In terms of gameplay, probably the biggest thing I enjoy is that you can reposition characters. No more selecting a character, undoing their move, and then repositioning them. That being said, habits are hard to break, and I often just use the old method. But it's still nice for when you just want to move a character one space over so you can put another one in their place instead. Overall, the game just feels slick to play, and the nice thing is that it also was released on the Switch, and it brought in a whole bunch of new fans to the series, which I think they need, given Nippon Ichi's financial troubles. Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 1 was one of my favorite games I played on the PS3, so I wanted to get the newest one too. At first I was ready to buy the PS4 version, but I noticed that my local library had a few copies at hand, so I borrowed a copy. I played it for about a week and had a pretty good idea what it's like to play on the system. I did end up buying the game on PC a while back, though I was tempted to just buy the PS4 game so I didn't have to go through the snowstorm tutorial again. The PS4 game plays fine and, in fact, looks excellent. This is one of those games where you can just roam around and take in the scenery. Red Dead Redemption is a series that has some more serious moments and isn't filled to the top with parody like the GTA games are, so that's a nice change. Atelier Ryza. Here's a game that I played on PC, but I have played a bit on the PS4 as well. I found the PS4 version to run quite well at 30 FPS, and only a few graphical shortcomings are present compared to the PC version. But enough of that, let's talk about what really matters with video games, and that's, just playing them. What I like about Atelier Ryza is that it rejuvenated the series, not just graphically, but also by bringing in a whole bunch of new people. Because this is the best-selling game in the series overall. Atelier games are JRPGs, all about exploration, ambiance, and having a relaxing time. It's not like there's nothing exciting that ever happens, but what I mean is that there's something calming about the whole gameplay experience. The character design is what initially brought attention to this game, and it does seem quite a lot of people are down with the thickness, but I think a lot of gamers also had a click because of the thumbnails stayed for the music moment with Atelier Ryza. There is a sequel for this game that's gonna come out eventually, so I'm looking forward to playing that as well. NieR Automata. I've talked about NieR Automata before. If you saw that video, then you probably know that I didn't think I would like the game, but it's on this list, so guess how I feel about it now. For some reason, despite all the fan art, there was something about how the game looked where I thought, this isn't for me. That's why I like to try games that at first glance don't do it for me. There was more to the game than I first thought. The story has interesting themes, and the gameplay is a really unique blend of various genres, namely hack and slash and bullet hell. It's pretty exciting to fight bosses, even just because of the visuals. I like how fluid and fast the gameplay is. Thankfully, running is fast outside battles, so going between different locations isn't a drag. I know there are games where you don't want that, but I think it fits here. It's not just the gameplay, but the music is excellent, and along with the art style, manages to create a whole variety of moods as you play the game. Valkyria Chronicles 1 and 4. Yes, I'm going to talk about two games now. Valkyria Chronicles is an alternate universe World War II strategy RPG with real-time elements. It's turn-based where you select units on a map, where things become mostly real-time once they're selected. The enemy won't move, but many types of units can shoot back as you're running along. I like the watercolor art style, the social commentary is excellent, and the story is deep and involved. That all applies to both Valkyria Chronicles 1 and 2, all of them actually. 1, 2, 3, and 4. But anyways, it's 1 and 4 because those exist on the PS4 here. That's why we're talking about them. The PC and PS4 version of the first game are very similar, so I felt no problems including it here in this video. The PS4 game runs at 30 instead of 60 FPS. That's the biggest difference. I played the original game on the PS3 at 30 FPS, so if the PS4 game of VC4 was my only choice, I'd have no problem playing it, of course. I did actually borrow the PS4 version from my local library to see how it is, and also to get some footage for videos. So that's probably what you're looking at right now. I can't bring up the series enough. I really love almost everything about it, so if you are curious, I made a where to start guide on Valkyria Chronicles, so you can take a look at that if you want. Check the card on the top right. The Witcher 3. Now this is a game I have experience with on every console it was released on. I have the PC and Switch versions. The Xbox One version I tried out because of Game Pass, and a friend has the PS4 game. I've personally always played the series on PC, and I've been a big fan since the first game. I love the atmosphere of the series and the deep lore and setting, and of course I like the gameplay too. The open worldness of the third game is pretty incredible. I'm one of those people that likes to roam the game world, like I said with Red Dead Redemption 2. So I just like to look at the environments. In a way, the game also allows you to peek into the past and see what medieval life must have been like, especially when you're in the towns and cities. Though probably not so much when you're fighting monsters and stuff. The Witcher 3 is one of those games that look and perform great on every system. It's surprisingly good on the Switch, and the Xbox One and PS4 versions look great, as you'd expect. And the PC version can go beyond that if you have the hardware. Battlefield 4, 1, and 5. Now we're looking at multiple games, and also the numbering seems out of sequence, but that's how that works. 2 of them I played on the PS4 and 2 of them on PC. Battlefield 4 was my very first PS4 game. It only runs at 90, or not 90p, 900p, but I still think it looks and performs well. I guess there's some sort of anti-aliasing going on that kind of hides the resolution, though it's obviously not 1080p. I played the game for quite a bit since that was all I had for a while, and it was good fun. I prefer my shooters to be set during the World Wars, so I very much welcome Battlefield 1. I don't think I've ever played a World War I based game before, actually. At the time, I hadn't played a shooter in a historical setting in a long time, so that was great to play. Origin Access was something I started subscribing to, which is now EA Play, by the way. And then I started playing Battlefield 1 on PC, and later 5 as well. In the end, I just prefer mouse and keyboard when it comes to Battlefield games. What I like about it is, that series in general is just really large maps and also the vehicles. Yes, I may not be very good at the game at all, but I still think it's a lot of fun. So, this is a bit of an esoteric list of PS4 games, but I hope you enjoyed that anyways. Everyone likes different games, of course, so please comment on what your favorites are. If you like the videos on the channel, consider helping out by becoming a Patreon supporter. You get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes updates, and you can even get a shoutout at the end of the video, just like you see here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.